Hey, how's it going? Imagine that you have a problem with a service or product, and when you call the customer service number, someone asks you to rate the conversation and whether your problem was solved, even before talking with anybody. Now that doesn't make any sense, does it?
Hello, how can I assist you today?
Hi, I need help accessing my account, please.
Alright, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this conversation, sir?
Well, I haven't even said anything about my issue.
Well, thank you for calling and have a great day.
Okay. Okay, just a few things before we get started. First, make sure to subscribe to the channel because you don't want to miss any future videos. Plus, your support is what keeps me going and creating content for you. Second, I'm on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and I've put a link to my profile in the description, so make sure to check it out and hit the follow button. I'd love to connect with you. Finally, check out the blog gettingstarted.ai. You can create a free membership and access the code that you see on this channel. Today, I'm going to show you how you can set up multi-agent workflows in AutoGen. Workflows or conversation patterns define how your agents talk to each other so that the conversations actually make sense. We're going to explore 4 main workflows in AutoGen. The first one is a 2-agent chat. Second, sequential chat. Third, group chat. And finally, nested chat. Let's start with the first one and the most basic, 2-agent chat. Now I covered this one in another video and I'm going to leave a link in the description so that you can check it out. So what's a 2-agent chat? Well, obviously it's a chat between 2 agents. Let's take a look at this diagram. This is the most basic and simplest pattern of the 4 that we're going to see today. And it starts with a problem. First, the problem comes in, then we have the first agent, agent A, and the second agent, agent B, and they're going to have a conversation about the problem. So there's going to be some back and forth between the agents. And once they're done, the summary of their conversation is going to be the solution. So you're going to get a better idea once we see the code. Okay, we have a new file called 2agentchat.py. Now, if you don't know how to set up your OpenAI key and how to install the AutoGen package, make sure to check out the video in the description because I go through all of the setup there. All right, let's write some code. First, I'm going to do import OS, and then I'm going to import AutoGen, user proxy agent. And if you're not familiar with the user proxy agent or the assistant agent or the conversable agent, make sure to check the video since it goes through the basics of how agents work and what they are. Okay, next we're going to set up our large language model configuration. So we're going to do lmconfig. Now I'm going to be using OpenAI's GPT. You can use whichever model you like. And you can try using GPT-4, just keep in mind that it's more expensive. Okay, next we're going to create the user proxy. So we're going to do user proxy and we're going to give it a name. And we're going to say human input mode. And this means that whenever the user proxy or this agent receives a message from other agents, it's going to ask for our feedback always. So every time it gets a message, I want to add in my feedback. And we're not going to execute any code for this example. So we're going to do execution config false. Okay, cool. Now we're going to create the specialist agent and we're going to do specialist assistant agent. But this one, we're going to make use of the large language model. So we're going to do LLM config and pass in the configuration from above. All right, the last step is to initiate everything. So the sender in this case is the user proxy. So we're going to do user proxy, initiate chat, and the receiver is the specialist. So we're going to say specialist. The message is going to be, hello, I need help. What this means is that the sender, the user proxy, is going to start a conversation with the specialist. And the first message is going to be, hello, I need help. Now, after this message is received by the specialist, there's going to be some back and forth between the agents until the conversation is done and we terminate. Okay, now we're going to run this and we're going to see what it looks like. Let's do this. So we're going to do Python 2agent chat and we're going to run this. And as you can see, the user proxy says to the specialist, hello, I need help. And then the specialist says to the user proxy, hi, I'm here to help. What do you need assistance with today? And that's good. That's everything that we need. Now, if we send another query, let's say, how can I access my account, for example, then this query is sent to the specialist and then the specialist is going to come up with an answer to the query. And that's the kind of back and forth that's happening with a 2-agent chat. Now we're just going to type exit to stop this conversation. All right, now we're going to see the sequential chat pattern. And from the name, you can guess that there's a sequence of chats that are happening one after the other. So in this diagram, we have this chat here between agent A and agent B. And this one, let's call it chat 1. And we have another chat here between agent A and agent C. We're going to call it chat 2. And as you can see, we have have agent A in both chats. That's just how sequential chat patterns work within AutoGen. Basically, the sender is agent A, and it's going to start a conversation with agent B. And then once that conversation is done, the summary is carried over to the next conversation, which also involves agent A, this time talking to agent C to solve the problem. And once it's done, we're going to have a solution. It's going to make more sense when we see the Python implementation. So let's do that right now and jump to VS Code. All right, cool. Now I'm going to take the code from the toAgent chat py file and paste it here for the sequential chat so we can modify it so that the chat becomes sequential. That's the code. First, we're going to modify the specialist. So we're going to add a custom system message, and we're going to say you are a professional customer service representative. Okay, and finally, we're going to do reply terminate. Okay, cool. We're going to need to add another agent, and this guy is going to check with the customer, so the user proxy in this case, if the customer had a good experience with the chat. So this comes after the conversation with the user proxy and the specialist. And we're going to call this guy surveyor, assistant agent, surveyor, and we're going to say LLM config, and we're going to override the message here. You are a surveyor. Now we're going to initiate the chat, and we're not going to do it like we've done with the toAgent chat because now this should run in a sequence. So first we're going to modify this, and we're going to say user proxy.initiate chats because we have two chats here. So I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to add an array. The first recipient is going to be the specialist, just like before. And the message, we're going to keep it the same. I need help. And we're going to add a parameter called summary method. We have two options for the summary method. The first one is last message, and what we're going to use is reflection with LLM. This means that when this conversation is done, the next conversation will get access to the context of this conversation. Okay, so when we say, this means that this conversation here is going to get summarized and passed over to the next one. And our next conversation is going to be between the user proxy and, you guessed it, the surveyor. So we're going to say surveyor. Message is going to be based. Okay, now we can add an extra parameter called carryover, and this is additional context when we move from the first conversation to this one. So in this case, you can do whatever you want based on your application needs, but I'm just going to add anything just to show you that it actually gets carried over when the new conversation begins. So I'm just going to say this is a new customer. All right, perfect. The user proxy is going to initiate with the specialist first. And once the conversation is done, the user proxy is going to initiate again with the surveyor. We're going to get the summary of the user proxy specialist conversation when we start the new conversation, user proxy surveyor. All right, we're going to run this code and we're going to see what happens. So we're going to do Python sequential chat. So as usual, the user proxy is going to say to the specialist, hello, I need help. And then the specialist is going to say, hello, how can I help you today? Now, if we exit, so let's do exit, what's going to happen is another conversation is going to start. As you can see, let me scroll up. So after we entered exit, as you can see, a new chat started because this one terminated. And now this one is between the user proxy and the surveyor. And it says based on the provided information, that's the message that we have. And then we have the context here. So this is the carryover message, and this is the summary of the previous conversation. So the surveyor uses this context to come up with an answer, which is kind of a survey question here. So it says, please rate your support experience, just like we asked it to. This shows how the chat pattern moved from this one, once it's done, to the next one. Perfect. We're going to do exit and we're going to continue. All right, the group chat pattern. And this one is interesting because the agents, they're not talking to each other directly. As you can see, there are no arrows between them. Instead, the group chat manager is orchestrating everything. So everything goes through the group chat manager. For instance, the group chat manager is going to select a speaker first. Let's say it selects the user proxy, and then the user proxy is going to send the message to the group chat manager. And then the group chat manager is going to broadcast that message back to all the agents. And then it's going to select the next speaker and so on and so forth. So this cycle keeps going until there's a common solution, which then terminates the flow. Again, this is going to be more obvious once we jump into the code. So we're going to do this now. All right, back to VS Code, and I'm going to go over here and go into the sequential chat, copy everything, create a new file, and I'm going to call it chat.py, paste everything, and we're going to do some changes. So first, let me hide this guy so that we can start. Okay, we're going to leave the specialist here kind of the same. So I don't think we're going to do any changes. we're just going to add another agent here. And this guy is going to be responsible to answer the user queries whenever the user mentions that a specific question is urgent. The KB manager will step in and answer instead of specialist. All right, so to do that, we're going to create a KB manager, conversible agent. Well, this could be an assistant agent as well, but I'm just going to show you that you can also use a conversible agent type here, which is the parent of the subclasses, assistant and user proxy agents. Okay, so we're going to call it KB manager, and we're going to have the LLM config, human input mode, never, and we're going to add a system message. You answer in a polite way that will be looked into. Now we're going to add an extra parameter for each agent. And what this does, it allows the group chat manager, which we're going to create in a bit, to know the specialty of each agent. It's like an introduction for each agent. So for example, we can say description, this agent. So now the group chat manager, when it needs to select a speaker, it's going to take a look at the descriptions of the agents. That's going to help it decide which one should answer a specific query. Does that make sense? Okay, so next we're going to do surveyor description. All right, next we're going to do KB manager. Okay, I'm just going to remove this guy. We're not going to use it. Now I'm going to create the group chat. So the group chat object defines which agents participate in a specific chat. So we're going to say group chat, and our agents are user proxy, specialist, surveyor, KB manager. Cool. Group chat manager, which is the agent that's going to orchestrate the conversation flow. We're going to pass the group chat and we're going to give it access to the large language model. So we're going to say okay, that's it. Finally, we're going to run this workflow. And this is simpler than the sequential workflow because we just have one agent that's going to handle everything. So what we're going to do is user proxy. That's our sender as usual. Initiate chat. This time it's going to chat with the group chat manager. And then the group chat manager is going to decide who's the speaker. And whenever the speaker sends a message, like we've seen in the diagram, it's going to broadcast that message to all of the other agents. And then it's going to select another speaker and so on and so forth. So it's going to be the same message. Hello. Need help. Now, obviously, you can have a more specific message. I'm just doing this for demo purposes. And summary method, we're also going to use reflection with LLM, just like we did with the sequential chat from before. Okay, super. Now I'm going to run this and we're going to take a look at how everything works. We're going to do Python group chat and hit return. All right, so we have a couple of issues with the code. So I'm going to go to VS Code and first make sure to add a messages parameter here that's required. And that's just going to be an empty list in this case. And here the KB manager, I forgot to assign the property description this value. So make sure to do that, hit save, and we're going to go back and we're going to try to run this again. So let's do it again. Okay, cool. So as you can see, the first conversation, the sender is the user proxy as usual, but instead of sending this to the specialist, now the user proxy is sending it to the chat manager instead. And it's saying, hello, I need help. And then the specialist responded to the chat manager and it said, hello, how can I help you today? And as you can see, the conversation is being completely managed by the chat manager. So if we say something like, I need assistance with my account, let's say, we're also sending that to the chat manager. And then the specialist is picking this up and it's said, I'm here to help you with your account. Let's say, I'm good. Thank you for the help. And now instead of choosing the specialist, the chat manager decided that since the conversation is done and the user is satisfied, let's run with the surveyor. And that's what happened. And as you can see, we have on a scale from 1 to 10, how would you rate the support you received today? And then the conversation is terminated. Cool. Let's take a look at the nested chat pattern. And this one is interesting because we have a problem that comes in and then agent A is going to talk to agent B like usual. And then there's going to be some back and forth between the agents. But at some point in time, agent B might say, hey, I need help with this particular issue. So it's going to ask agent E in this case for the answer, to which agent E is going to respond back to agent B. And then this answer would be sent from agent B to agent A. Now, agent A, this guy isn't aware of this conversation that took place between agent B and agent E. So once that's done, the conversation is going to move forward and then we're going to have a solution. Now, obviously that's going to be more apparent and you're going to get a better idea once we jump to the Python code. So let's do that. All right, back to VS Code. I'm going to go to the group chat file and I'm going to copy everything and paste it here. Okay, now we're going to have a sequential conversation, but this time we're going to use a trigger to detect if the user wants to escalate and to treat this as an urgent request. And what this means is that the specialist is going to get the opinion from the KB manager without the user knowing that this side conversation took place. And then when the KB manager answers, the specialist is going to take this response from the KB manager and send it back to the user proxy. From the user proxy's perspective, it's just talking to the specialist. It has no idea that the specialist actually got its answer from the KB manager. So I'm mostly leaving everything, but I'm just going to change this part here. I'm going to remove the descriptions. We're not going to need those. Yeah, so we're not going to be using a group chat manager. We're going to register this side conversation between the specialist and the KB manager. And to do that, it's pretty straightforward. We just do specialist.register nested chats. And we can have multiple chats here, but we're just going to do one. So this is an array, and we have the recipient, KB manager, and summary method, last message. We just need a last message from the conversation. Max turns 1. So there's going to be just one interaction. The specialist is going to send one message to the KB manager, and the KB manager is just going to reply, and that's it. The side conversation would be terminated. Okay, now we're going to do the initialization. So it's going to be a sequential chat pattern, like I've said before. So we're going to do user proxy, and then we're going to do initiate chats. The first chat is going to be with the specialist, and the second chat is going to be with the surveyor. Now, this user proxy is going to initiate the chat with the specialist first, but we're going to detect when the user proxy wants to escalate the conversation. To do this, we provide a trigger parameter. So we can say trigger, so you can pass in user proxy. And this means that whenever the user proxy sends a message to the specialist, then this nested chat with the KB manager is going to be triggered. In our case, we're going to do a check if the user proxy is the sender, and we're going to see if the message that the user proxy sends to the specialist contains the word important, for example. Now let's create this function, and I'm going to show you how you can add this trigger. So to do that, we're going to do trigger, and I'm going to say sender is user proxy. So that's condition number 1, should escalate sender. Okay, now we're going to create this should escalate function. Okay, so should escalate content. Copilot is recommending this, so I'm going to accept it. Cool. Now we're going to say exists. Okay, now just one more thing before we run this code. I'm going to add a message that's going to go from the specialist to the KB manager when there's an escalation that is required. So I'm just going to say, okay, cool. All right. Now I know that this is a long video and you're probably bored, but that's the last thing that I'm going to show you today. So let's just run the nested chat and see what that looks like. So we're going to do Python nested chat. Okay, so the usual user proxy, specialist, user proxy, nothing new. Now, if you remember, the trigger was a set of words. Now let's say we want to send an urgent request. So I'm going to do this is urgent, and that's going to trigger the side conversation or the nested chat between the specialist and the KB manager. So I'm going to send this. And as you can see, as soon as we did, a new chat started here between the specialist and the KB manager. So this is the message that we set in the code. And then the KB manager sent this to the specialist. And then the specialist just sent the same message to the user proxy. Keep in mind, from the perspective of the user proxy, like we said, it's only having a conversation with the specialist. Now, I just want to say thank you for staying here and thank you for watching. And if you want to support my channel, please subscribe right now. Make sure to hit the like button because your support is greatly appreciated and it keeps me going forward. So thanks again, and I'll see you soon.